Hello, INTPs, and welcome to my channel. I'm waking up, locking in, and I've really been seeking to put together this idea. In a nutshell, I aim to say that INTPs, and anyone that needs to hear this, and in the MBTI system, anyone who's not a TE Dom, you are not lazy. You are not lazy. You simply have a different perspective and a different mission in the world. There are a number of ways I'd like to talk through this. However, I'll say it like this. I'll say INTPs specifically, you have a different mission and you do things in a different order than a TE Dom. Okay, we'll go through that first. So according to the functions, the first thing that an INTP will do is create a theory. And if I don't know everything in this environment, then I cannot create the theory. And so the first thing you will do as an INTP when you are aiming to do something is you will know that you don't have a theory yet. And in order to get that theory, you need to collect more information. And so you would explore widely, and I would say you use all three of these functions to gather a base level understanding of what you're looking at, how everything connects. And through all of that, eventually you have collected enough introverted sensing data that you now have a theory about how this works. And from that theory, you will now, the analogy I would use here is, or the image I would use here is that it's like the first thing you must do in anything you do, or the most natural way that you approach anything you do, is you first get down and you craft glasses. You craft the way that you would like to look at this situation. So you explore the situation, you gather information, and then you create your guiding theory. And from that guiding theory, you now have a way that you're looking at this information that automatically informs the next thing to do. And you repeat this over and over. That is your natural approach. And like to throw in the fourth function, I'll say that ultimately you hope that what you're doing here is of use. Like if it is of use for other people, it's like the icing on the cake. It's like there's nothing else I'd rather do than come up with these theories that inform more things to learn about, that allows me to better navigate the world, and keep on doing this ultimately in hopes of helping the people around me and making their lives easier. That is the INTP perspective in a nutshell. Now, what I'd like to talk about is how this world often has little room for that process. The theory I currently have is this. We are only maybe a century removed from the Industrial Revolution. And in the Industrial Revolution, the culture of management was formed. It was created. And management is all about efficiency, productivity. How many widgets did you create in the last hour? In other words, it was all about TE, extroverted thinking. So let me talk about, I guess we can talk about, let's use the example of like ENTJ. How do they think? How do they think? They lead with TE. And TE is all about like, okay, I've been given some tasks to do. What is the systematic way to get it accomplished? How do I break this down into 100 easy pieces that I can delegate and measure and track, and so that we know that with these 100 pieces, if we do all 100 pieces, we're done. right? And you can hear how that first step is completely different from the INTP's first step. I'll keep walking through to see if there's anything else to learn here. They break down the task that they have to do, and they systematize it, and then they execute, and they know that every step that they get done, they're getting closer to the finish line. ENTJs will think about they take a step. They like to take a step back, or the most accomplished of them will take a step back and think about where are they going? What is the ultimate long-term purpose of doing this? If an ENTJ is less mature, then they will often skip this and they will just keep on executing. However, this is a well-executing ENTJ will break down their process into steps and execute and look forward into what they're doing. And they will not really think about the past. Instead, they will think about what they're currently seeing. They will use the clues that they're seeing in this very moment, like maybe someone's facial expression, or like they see a pile of stuff over there, and that pile of stuff over there tells them that maybe there's something going wrong in the process, things like this. And ultimately, this is all to justify their own existence on the earth. Because I have done all of this for mankind, I have done all of these things that need to be done, I can rest assured now that I am a worthy person. And hence, this is why an ENTJ will often, after they retire, they will establish foundations with their name on them. They will put their name on buildings. Ultimately, this is their source spot. This is what they were. They chose this, and they chose this, and thus they are somewhat unsure about this, and they want to, like, a lot of what they're doing in life is to soothe this, right? Their own self-worth. So now you have that information. However, the reason why I was talking about that is to outline exactly how different this world perspective is than from the INTP. And to back up in history once again, the company man, the structure of corporate America is heavily TE. And I have a theory that essentially two whole generations of Americans moving into the city to work for companies to have a better life, they all essentially had to TE or die. They had to buy in to the company man perspective, or else they will not be able to survive corporate life. So now the entire culture of the world is TE. And so they all understand what each other expects. And so everyone is especially, by the way, the educational system is also TE. It's ESTJ. I don't know, if you ever work in a school environment, you will see the prevalence of ISTJs and ESTJs. They just want to know what to do, and as long as they're doing that, it's almost like their mindset is, I did my part, so I am not responsible for anything that happens. That sounds a bit negative, but that has been my observation. So offshoot is an educational system, which is also a heavily TE system, TESI. Corporate America, the corporate culture is heavily TESI. And so the whole community is steeped in this perspective. And thus when anyone conventional looks at the INTP, they say, what are you doing? What are you doing? I see a far simpler first step you could be doing. And if you do that first step, then we will be able to see that we're making progress. But the INTP is just naturally opposed to that whole perspective. The INTP says, I have no idea what you're talking about with steps. I just know that if I have a holistic theory and understanding of this thing, then it'll be very clear what I want to do next. And so this is why an INTP's natural process is so bewildering for for conventional people. For anyone, especially for anyone with SI in their stack, I mean, they don't even have to have TE. If they just have SI, then they will be steeped in this understanding of like, oh, TE is the way to do things. Extroverted thinking. So looping back to like the topic I want to talk about is INTPs are quite rare, and the culture is directly opposed from the INTP's natural process. And so INTPs, if you're listening, you might feel like, oh, there's something wrong with me, I'm lazy. No. What's actually happening here is you have a natural process. You have a natural way of thinking through things that is not the accepted way of thinking through things. And thus, you will find resistance everywhere you go. People will think you're weird. People will think you're doing things out of order. And I'm here to say, you're not. And this somewhat reminds me of a scene in Silicon Valley that I really love. Peter Gregory's process. Let me see if I can just like walk through what happens here. But this is an excellent example to me of what it is like to be an INTP. So Peter Gregory is an investor, and one of the partners that he is invested in, they come in and they are out of money, and they need a loan as fast as possible, or else they're going to have to fire people, right? And my read is, okay, I'll post a link about this in the video, but my read is this person's ESTJ, just bottom bottom line thinker, like this, like, hold on, let's not talk about that, let's just talk about the facts and the data. And to me, this person is either ISFJ or ISTJ. No, I would say INTJ actually. So they've come to ask for a loan. Peter Gregory is off in his own land. He hears them, and then he instantly says, has any of you ever heard about the restaurant BK, Burger King? And as you can see, well, yeah, sure, I've heard of it, yeah, but what's going on? And then Peter Gregory proceeds to completely seemingly ignore what these two people have come asking for, and dive into the intricacies of Burger King's menu. Monica, is her name Monica? Anyways, I read her as people say ENFJ online, and I would say probably right. So her drive here is to make sure the people that she is committed to are taken care of. And so she comes in and she pleads the part of like, hey, I made a promise to these guys that they're not going to have to fire anyone. To me, I'm going to talk about how, like, to me, the way Peter Gregory is acting here is how you should respond to that as an INTP, which is like, I understand that you are ESFJ, so you can't ignore that, but I'm going to have to ignore that because I'm busy. Peter Gregory notices that all of these buns have sesame seeds on them. He looks into them. The TE Doms come barging in later saying, hey, people are going to be fired. Bottom line, what are we supposed to do here? Peter Gregory says, hey, Myanmar and one Cambodia or something, some other country, they are the world suppliers of sesame seeds, and their crops will be devastated in the future. I made an investment. I'm going to make a certain amount of money. 1/6 of that money I can very easily loan to you, and you won't have to fire anyone. Happy? And at the end here, he points out another ingredient to his assistant, and the assistant, understanding that now like there is a method to the madness, says that he will look into this ingredient, right? This clip to me, and that's the way that I felt I had to go through this time. This clip to me really emphasizes or highlights the process of the INTP, which is there's for like one way I can say it is there is a reason why FE is at the bottom of our stack and TE is our opposing function. It is because we need to be able to look in a way that completely ignores, not consciously, but ignores what everyone else is doing. Hey, other people need things. Oh, okay, that is not my role. Hey, we agreed to a certain process and we are looking for progress. I can't do that first. I am here to create theories and explore what those theories mean. And Peter Gregory's process here, to me, highlights exactly what that is like. I'm very encouraged as I reflect upon this right now because I've just seen over and over in my life people won over by me. You know, in college, I was quite, distant. I didn't really want to do the normal things people did. Played a lot of video games. But there was something that I said or did that shocked people. And it shocked people so much that I shocked people into them believing in me and being my friends. I said this one thing that they're like, he's right. And I've never heard anyone say that before. I have, the people that have stuck around have been the ones that kept on asking themselves, I wonder where this is going to go. And time after time, it went somewhere good. And that's astounding to people. Like my friend who's an ISTJ, he wants the conventional thing. He wants to have a plan. He wants to go to the places where people usually go. But we went on a trip together to Japan. And he essentially let me lead. And each night was just a crazy, unconnected adventure. And I'm sure, I know for me, it was validation for me to understand that the way I am is not a fluke. The way I am is also a process. It's just not the conventional process. So before going any further, I'll talk about exactly what I see is the useful or the important takeaway for INTPs here. And it's essentially this. It is to listen to yourself. Even though it seems that no one agrees with you, no one thinks you're right. It looks like suicide. It looks like you are not being responsible because, again, right, responsibility. Okay, first of all, yeah, here is the prevailing view of the world. ESTJ, extroverted thinking, what do we need to do? And introverted sensing, which is consistency, perseverance, grit, reliability. If you do it for a long time, over 30 years, then you will be successful, right? That is the prevailing view. And everyone's going to have that, especially in our recent past. They will all have been converted to that. And I'm here to tell you that for you, that is completely wrong. And you will find that if you try and do that, you will, number one, quit often. Number two, you will burn out. Number three, you will often do it wrong. And what you might see is, number four, if you do it the way that you think you want it, you think is right, the way that the INTP way, you will find that things keep on going well. Things keep on going right. So that is somewhat an experiment I'm running, and I'm sharing with you on this channel. I mean, I'm latest book, Psycho-Cybernetics here. What I see calling to me is a desire to validate this theory that I have, which is that INTPs have this perspective for a reason. They have this instinctual drive for a reason. And I am turning myself into a guinea pig, somewhat to show, not so much to show, but to find out, or to validate what I have already observed in my life, which is that INTPs don't have to listen to conventional wisdom. INTPs are not here to do that. I wanted this topic to be about how you're not lazy, INTPs, and I think I've successfully explained that, successfully outlined that. But give me a moment to find out if there's anything else I wanted to cover about this. Well, I can review what I think happens. I can review what I think happens if INTPs try to be conventional. As we saw with Monica in that clip, there is one way of going about life, which is like to be there for other people and to take care of them and be a good person for the group, right? But see, that is our fourth function, and so we are automatically like using our off foot, and so you might find yourself always feeling obligated, tired, angry at everyone around you, maybe just uninspired, if this is what you're leading with in life. If you're using extroverted thinking, like essentially what I think happens if you use these as your leads in life is you will be tired, you will be listless, you will be depressed, and you will just be quite resigned in life. Here's the other like primary way that people expect you to go through life, and you might have to follow, or you might feel like you have to follow. This is school, right? Execute on your deadlines and follow the responsibilities and like make your word is your bond. These things. If you do that, then you will once again be very tired, and nothing will feel like it means anything. That's my assertion. Now, what to do instead? My assertion essentially is to let my experiment that I'm running right now is to let your natural inclination lead. So I've already somewhat proven to myself that purchasing these books were worth doing. Even though, again, from a TE perspective, from an extroverted thinking perspective, it sounds like the most outlandish first step to take when, for example, you need to get a project done, right? But not from an INTP perspective, not from a TINE perspective. The TINE perspective says, get a strong understanding of the lay of the land, create the theory and perspective through which to see it, and then let that perspective guide you in the next steps to take. And I'm letting myself do that. And if you've been following along, I think hopefully it's clear that that's what I'm doing. So I'll wrap up. I'll say INTPs and anyone who does not have TE at the top of their stack, you are not lazy. You do not have to live by TE. There is something else that is far more important to you, and you should lead by that, or you should lead with that. You know what I'm going to do next video? I will talk about what the other people's perspectives will also look like. INTPs and other people, I'll walk through everyone's perspectives so that we can understand what people are doing when they're doing what you think is absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. It's not absolute nonsense. It is just their way of making sense of what's happening and solving whatever issue they have. That's it today. Talk to you next time.